My intention is that this music is on, that you're hearing it. Hopefully what's taking place now is that I'm coming on. Turn the music down. This is Dr. Dennis L. Waters. This is the Restore Executive Life and Leadership Coaching and Consulting podcast. You're welcome to be here. Glad you are here. Thankful. As I said, we are working with the aspect that we are really working with three items. We're working with the aspect of Restore Executive Life and Leadership Coaching and Consulting is just that. We're doing the aspect of coaching and consulting. When we say coaching, we're talking about from the standpoint of coaching has to do with individuals who are seeking to move from one state really to another state, or one stage to another stage. And what we mean by that is that we're talking about evolutionary growth. When we speak of evolutionary growth, we're talking about the aspect of an individual who wants to be more of what they have sensed, that in some kind of way, spirit, God, or whatever you want to call it, the universe, or it could be their community, more of what they already are. In other words, we consider it that there is some way that they have realized that inside of them is something greater than what they have already sensed or seen being produced in their life. And they want that something that is greater to come forth. And that's what we call coaching. We use a variety of techniques as we work with individuals in order to help them to realize that better person for that to come forth. And some of those items that we use are spiritual, psychological, metaphysical, all of those things we use to help an individual to come forth and to be their very best self. Some of the authors that we use, of course, when we speak of the biblical aspect from the standpoint of spirituality, I'm a student of the Bible. I have a D.Min. I studied with a person that I dearly loved. I had read his book called Troubling Biblical Waters 8 times. I had read his book 8 times, Troubling Biblical Waters, and I had read it and read it and read it and still did not totally understand it, but Spirit made it possible for me to actually move into the area where he lived, and eventually, not only he lived in this area, but he taught at the school I had dreamed about going to when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I had dreamed about going to one or two schools. One was Hampton because my uncle had gone to that school, and the other one was Howard University. And this man taught at Howard University. I did not know that when I moved into the area. I did not really know him. I just got the book. But when I went to Howard University to study for my doctorate of ministry, he was the individual who was there. And I had read his book 8 times. Now we call that the law of attraction. So the law of attraction brought me together with the teacher whose book I had read 8 different times. I was surprised, but That is exactly what happened with me. And I sat in this class, and when I first did a presentation before him, he just affirmed me as far as someone who had read his book and had understood it. And I'm very thankful. That man became my professor, he became my doctoral chair. He was a person that ushered me through the process of getting my D-Min. And I'm very, very thankful. I became his teaching assistant, and his name was Dr. Kane Hopefeld. I do want to honor him. I want to call his name. He passed, I believe, in 2019, and I just want to call his name. And part of what I do is to honor him. I've had other also teachers, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who's at the Agape International Spiritual Center. There is a man that when I look at what I do in a number of areas, I just want to call his name because his name is Dr. Will Coleman, and he teaches, I believe it's at the International Theological Center, or University or Seminary in Atlanta, Georgia. He is an excellent teacher, and I honor him. There are others as well. There's Reverend Dr. Mary Tompkins. She has also transitioned, and but I was taught by her, and I'm very thankful for having the opportunity. There is Reverend Dr. Sheila McKeithen that I have been taught by as well. There are all kinds of individuals. There is Reverend Cheryl Ward, I believe is her name, if I'm saying the name correctly. Reverend Lisa Stringles, I believe is her name. There are others that have been my teachers, and that's just on the word of the aspect of being taught in this spiritual realm. I've had teachers that have been my teachers as an industrial organizational psychologist. I'm very thankful for them. In my master's of science in telecommunications management, there were teachers as well. And so all of those individuals I want to honor when it comes to this because they all contribute to the aspect of my being who I am today. And when I read and study and everything else in regard to this, to speak with you about what it means to be a Restore Executive Life and Leadership Coaching and Consulting. One of the things that we do, we train coaches in our 8 A's to actually become coaches. It's not something that a person does overnight. There's a whole process that they go through in order to become a coach that works for our company. So the Restore Executive Life and Leadership Coaching and Consulting, a person who has listened to what we are doing, then you come through a period of training, and if you qualify, then you can become a coach for our company. It's coaching and consulting, so you can become a coach for our company. But you got to know what you're doing because when you're coaching, you're dealing with people's lives. When you're consulting, you're dealing with people's lives, and so you got to make sure, first of all, that you've had your own journey of transformation. That's the best process that you can go through is that you go through it yourself in order to grow, in order to change, in order to evolve, as we call. There's a lot of reading that's involved with that. And I say to individuals when it comes to reading, reading is something that you discipline yourself to do. Most people that know me know that there's a book that I recommend that people read almost for anything. And I've read a lot of books and I've seen a lot of things and studied a lot of disciplines and all of those kinds of things. So I recommend that people actually go through a process and do a lot of reading. I got a book for that. There's a book called How to Read a Book. It was written a few years ago, a long time ago actually, called How to Read a Book. And I recommend that people read that book so that you understand how to read a book. There's a book that is called As a Man Thinketh. It's a very powerful book. Get it, read it. You can probably read the book in like a day if you are into reading books or if you just sit down and read a book. As a Man Thinketh, taken straight from a biblical verse, how as a man thinketh, because thinking will change your life. There's a book actually called Think and Grow Rich. There's the book, and then there's a thing that we use that has 16 individual lessons in regard to that particular book. because thinking in a particular way will actually change your thinking process and bring about you having a wealth mindset. And the wealth mindset will bring about a different life for you. And so this whole process, as a man thinketh, and it's not only talking about physical riches, it's actually talking about the aspect of all kinds. I talk about 7 different layers of riches, and they begin with spiritual riches. And so it's very, very vital that you understand what's going on in regard to that. And so that's what we mean when we say restore executive life and leadership coaching and consulting. We teach, we train, we show individuals in regard to what it is that's happening in their mind so that they can actually go through a process so they understand what it is that's happening in their life. Some of the tools and techniques that we've used as it comes to working with individuals, there's what they call cognitive, which is mental, and then there's emotive techniques that are used in regard to that. So what good psychologist works with in regard to working with people. So you go through the whole process. So, and the outcome is that behavioral change is what's taking place, and those are your actions. Those are your actions. So you first of all deal with your mind, because we're dealing with the aspect of what you can work with. You may not be able to control your emotions, certainly, until you change your thinking process. And so you look at your thinking. That's what we call being self-aware, the aspect of being self-aware. And the first step in our 8 A's is awareness. And we're not talking about just simply being aware of that which is outside of you or what is considered outside of you. It's to understand that what is going on inside of you. What is your thinking? And as we've said before, individuals who are dealing with the aspect of that they've had a traumatic experience, and the traumatic experience could be loss of a loved one, it could be trauma by virtue of some kind of accident that you've been in, some kind of traumatic experience, could be rape, it could be sickness, it could be death of a loved one, all those kinds of things. Those are traumatic experiences. And what we encourage individuals to do is actually take control of their lives, own their lives. And we talk about becoming 100% responsible for your life. 100% responsible. At what point? You could do it from now. You can go back and do it from the point, from before you were born. There's a man called Dr. Wayne Dyer who actually went to the point where he said before he was born that spirit, he had a conversation with God, and that he went through the process and owned his life. And he was raised in an orphanage. And so this whole piece. Well, can you get something in the Bible in regard to that? Because the Buddhists say, what was your original face? What was your face before your parents were born? What was your face when your grandparents were born? That kind of thing. What was it? Well, there's a few verses in the Bible that talk about such a thing. First of all, there's a verse in the Bible that says that all the days of your life were written before you had lived one of them. I believe that's Psalms 139, but I'll check that and make sure that that's the particular one. Then we talk about the aspect, as I've said before, that God, when he spoke to Jeremiah, says in Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 4 through 9, I believe it is, that before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And so this whole aspect of him talking to Jeremiah, that God is reminding Jeremiah, he's putting Jeremiah's mind back together, that before you were formed in the womb, there was a you. Before you were formed in the womb, there was a you. Now you put that together, and then there's a statement in the Bible that is so powerful. It says, I will restore. I will restore. If you take it all the way back, that whole piece is that I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. Take it all the way back. There's an original you. There's an original you that you're getting back to, not just on this earth. You may have lost a whole lot of things on this earth, but there's an original pattern of you. There's an original identity of you. And you may have lost that particular original shine, if you will, that original version, that original idea of you. God has never lost it. God has never lost it. God knows you from before you were born, before you were formed in the womb. There's an original you. And so that's the you. I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. That's what we work with in regard to this whole aspect of self-awareness. And that's the answer to the question that must be answered. Who are you? Who are you? Not you as a result of all the things you may have gone through in life, but who are you originally? Who are you? And to get to that, we go through various processes. And so there's so many things that we work with, and we choose to work with people when it comes to spiritual life. There's Spirit of Victory and Praise, International Spiritual Center. That's one entity that we work with as well. And then there's a nonprofit, I Will Restore, which is I Will Restore Ministry. So we work with in regard to that because we're trying every way we possibly can in order to work with individuals so that we can have any door that we can work with any individual that might present themselves to us in any way that we possibly can. And that's why we're doing the podcast as well. So this whole aspect of working with an individual, and it's so interesting. I mentioned to you that I'm a member of the American Psychological Association. That means I pay dues for that. But I'm looking at it's called the Journal of the American Psychological Association. This is the January 2022, volume 77, number 1. It has an ISSN number of 0003. I believe that's 303, and then -066X. I'm looking at it, and it has, as a cover, it has a mystical bridge. I guess it's done by Jimmy Perron, Perron. And inside there is an article that's done by a lady, Dr. Cassandra Vieten, if I'm saying that name correctly, Vieten. So it's done by her and Dr. David Lukoff, if I'm saying that correctly, Lukoff. So that's the individuals who are cited as being the authors of this particular article that I'm looking at. It may be possible for you to go to apa.com and download it or buy it or whatever it may be. I'm not sure in regard to that. But this whole aspect of the relationship between religion and spiritual competencies in psychology is what the article is about. And she writes, and this is what I want to, they write, and this is what I want to mention. She says, while the words religion and spirituality, and they are making this clear, while the words have historically often been used interchangeably, spirituality and religion are increasingly being viewed as distinct, yet partially overlapping constructs. Religion most often refers to an organized belief system, guided by shared values, practices, and understanding of the divine, and involvement in a religious community. Spirituality can be defined more broadly as an individual's internal sense of connection to something beyond oneself, which could be perceived as a higher power or God, and/or a more general sense of the sacred, consciousness, or interconnectedness of all of nature and life. Religion and spirituality play a central role in the lives of most people in the United States. Gallup polls between 1992 and 2016 show that despite a decline over the last 2 decades, 72% of Americans still report that religion is very important or fairly important in their lives. 89% believe in God, and half of the U.S. citizens regularly participate in an organized religious community. However, while 70.8% of people identify as Christians and 5.9% come from other faiths, a recent Pew Forum survey found that 27% of people self-identify as spiritual but not religious, and 5% jump from 2012. Since the 1960s, interest in Asian spiritual practice such as yoga, meditation, Qigong, if I'm saying that correctly, and Tai Chi has increased in the United States, as has participation in sweat lodges, drumming circles, ritualized and therapeutic use of entheogens, plant medicines, and psychedelics, and modern versions of traditional religions and spiritual are eclectic, spiritual oriented practices and groups. There's a growing evidence based for the beneficial effects of many of these practices on mental health, and they can cause intense or disruptive psychological states as well. Though the term spirituality does not appear in the APA ethical principles for psychologists and code of conduct, the Division 36 Psychology of Religion was renamed the Society for the Psychology of Religion and Spirituality in 2011, and their APA publication launched in 2009 is entitled Psychology of Religion and Spirituality. And so what she's basically saying is that there is a recognition in America of the relationship between religion, psychology, spirituality, psychology, and that recognition is because of the fact that people in America, first of all, a majority of people are seeking something outside of themselves, which they call God and by other names, and that they are seeking in such a way that they're practicing different things than what they previously did, whether that is yoga, whether that is meditation, or whether that is a number of other things. Why are they doing that? Because they're beginning to understand that solutions to problems that they've had previously, that they are not finding, or that the society is not finding the answers to those problems. The American society is not finding the answers to age-old problems in what we have previously seen as religion. And so there's a search, especially among the younger generation. There's a searching, there's a cry from the heart for something that will bring about a solution to this question: who am I? Why am I here? What is it that's really happening? And the appeal of Restore Executive Life and Leadership Coaching and Consulting, the appeal of Spirit of Victory and Praise International Spiritual Center, and even our school, our institute, our university, Spirit, Victory, Praise Transformational Leadership Institute, University. The appeal of I Will Restore is to answer that call, to help individuals to discover. Because the age-old answers that we've given previously, we recognize that the problems of the past continue to come up. They continue to resonate and come forth. And we see seemingly these things that we thought were settled in the past, they are still here, and they rear their heads from time to time. And we recognize they are still here. And the solutions that were provided before, they don't stay with us. We seem to have answers, but then we don't. And the answers that we've provided before are like Band-Aids. And I'm one of those individuals who arrive at the point that I just don't think that the fighting fire with fire does anything else other than get everybody burned. It just does not work. And so I encourage individuals to meditate. I encourage individuals to practice not just prayer, but affirmative prayer. I look to the lives of the mystics and the affirmative prayers of the past, and I see where there are solutions But at least there's not a continual decimations of societies and of people. And even there is not the terrible, in my estimation, things that take place where after you've won, you still lose. There's some fights that after you've won, there are still losses that the winner experiences. And I look at that because it just keeps on taking place in society. I see it. When it comes to America, I love this country. I love this country. My ancestors come from both Africa and from England. They come from both places. I love this country. My ancestors fought, from what I know, in every war. Revolutionary War, yes. Every war. And soldiers in every war. Some of them were commended, but none of them, from what I have read, involved with things that were commended by or work with people, even like George Washington himself, from what I read. And so I look at it, I love this country. I think democracy is the way to have government. I think. I've read Locke, Hume, Kant, Young, others. I think it's the way to have life. And so I study it. And what I teach, what I train, I want to live. I want to live. It's something. I've lived in a time when I was, I heard others, then I don't want to do that anymore. But beyond that, I have bought into the aspect that the way to win is what I see in a person that was named Jesus the Christ. I see something in the people that I read about, whether that person's name was Gandhi, Mother Teresa, or whether that person is found in the Old Testament, people like Abraham, people like Moses, like David. I know he was a fighter and everything like that. And there may be times when a Goliath is breathing down your throat and you need to put an end to his boasting. Because as David said to Goliath, you don't know the God that I know. There's a time, as they say, for everything. And so there's a time for that. Because some people just don't listen. But that time, is at the end of, you're trying all kinds of stuff. Please, let's talk. If they will not listen, then yes, from what I read, and I'm not in government, I'm just someone talking, on a podcast. So I teach people to look at your thinking, to go through your process, to look at 8 different steps. And in those 8 different steps, you can find an almost unlimited number of ways that you can consider your thoughts. In those 8 different steps, you can find ways to address your different emotions. In those 8 different steps, you can see and become aware of how you respond to any situation because you want the ultimate outcome for yourself in your own life, in your family, in your community, on your job. You can begin these steps with, I want a new house. I want a new car. I want a new job. I want a new relationship. I want to treat people better than I've ever treated them before. Once you identify your goal, then you set specific, what they call milestones or objectives that you're going to move toward those. We can work with that. We can just simply go through a process and say, you know, let's look at it and let's determine what helps us to get there, what seeks to hinder us from getting there. We look at the thoughts that are needful, that are helpful. We look at the thoughts that will hinder. And then we can go through a process where we go through the aspect, as we say, of the 8 A's and go through the aspect and work in a specific way. And it almost becomes like a biofeedback type situation where we're able to work step by step by step. This is a skill that we work with individuals, a skill that we work. But we're not boasting to anybody. It's just that we're working with everybody. So I'm going to play a little bit of music in regard to this, and then we'll come back. It's a little bit of time we're spending with this, but we'll play a little bit of music. Good. This is Restore Executive Life and Leadership Coaching and Consulting. This is our broadcast. We're talking to you. You're listening. God bless you. Send us an email, admin at rel-coach, COACH.com. Admin at realcoach.com. We've got some material we can send. The first thing we want to send you, first of all, is this aspect of having a planner that you can write down your goals. You need to have goals. This is not the aspect of working with people without goals. This is, you got to have goals, because this is not therapy. We're not in the process of just being therapeutic. You got to have goals. We're not trying to fix you. You're not broken. We're not trying to save you. You're not lost. That's not our process here. We are trying to help grown people, as they say, people who take responsibility for your life. So we're going to play some music again. This clip again. going to move that right off for now, and we're going to bring this to an end. Want to just say thank you for being with us this time. There are, I believe, a number of the podcasts that we have online. I believe they're online. I'm looking at some that we've done before. There's the I Am Realizations, the Affirmative Tranquility Within, where there's words and music. There's attracting abundance and affirmation for right thinking, awakening potential, and those things are right there online. You can find them perhaps on our YouTube channel. All of those items that are there. We may come back and actually put some pictures if they're without pictures and all those kinds of things there. But I really do want you to benefit from what we're doing. You can, again, email us admin@realcoach.com. You may have been emailing before, and I did not actually get the emails, but I want to respond in a better way than what we have done previously. We've set up a better way to actually receive the emails, and I ask you for forgiveness if you have emailed us previously and we've not responded to you. We want to do better going forward. And you can make that possible. Again, we have two nonprofits. And one of the ways that you can help in regard to what we're doing as far as our broadcast, because we need other individuals who are working with us. The whole thing that we're working as far as what we're doing and everything like that. And so one of the ways that you can do, if you choose not to be one of our clients, as far as our Restore Executive Life and Leadership Coaching and Consulting, you can provide a gift to either our spiritual center or give a gift to I Will Restore. They're both nonprofit organizations. And we want to, as I said, we want to actually move to the point that we're able to do more. And we want to be able to do that. And that requires additional funds. Because the more funds we have, the more we can do in the society. And we've, in the past, myself, my wife, and others have in the past actually tried to do so much of this on our own, and we've done a great deal. I mean, when I think about it, we've done a great deal, and I'm very thankful for what has happened. And a lot of people, let me just say very clearly, that a lot of people have given to what we have done. There are so many resources that we have that we are able to share, that we are seeking to get online and make sure that we have the resources, that they are secure, um, so that individuals who want them are able to get them and that they are protected in this day and time, especially in this day and time. They are protected so that we have them in a secure place, and that the security around them, so that when you get log in, when you are accessing them in their secure location, that you are logging in to something that where you're not getting a virus or anything like that. We don't want that to happen for you, and we don't want it to happen for us. I will just simply say that we've had challenges about that previously, and that's one of the reasons that for a period of time I just was not recording and not having the kind of conversations that I wanted to have. Was because of some issues that we had with security. And so I'm seeking to come back and to get this going the way that we had it going previously. And again, my apologies uh, for what happened previously, but I was not prepared for what did occur, and I want to be better prepared as we go forward. So we need gifts to come in. And if you email me at admin@realcoach.com, real-coach.com, and you want to provide a gift, then I'll give you the way to go about doing that as well. Blessings, take care. But above all, please, 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 um, write the goals out. Intend that you will have the life that you want without excuse to anybody. Intend that without sending an email to anybody. Just intend that you will have the life that you want. If you want to purchase a book, there's a book by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Is Wayne Dyer has a transition has passed, but he had books called The Power of Intention. He's got a lot of books, but there's one called The Power of Intention. He wrote that a long time ago. And what I'm saying is intend to have the life that you want rather than complain. No matter what has happened to you, no matter what has happened to you, no matter who you are, no matter what your color, what your race, no matter what society is happening, saying of who you are, it does not matter. Intend to have the life that you want. Intend it. Even if it seems impossible, intend it. And even in listening to the podcast, intend to have the life that you want. And if you write it down, write it down. Our 4 Ds are desire, being definite, which means to write it out. I had one client, I was almost finished, and I'm going to be finished, but please, and if you're not doing this, tell somebody around you, a friend. You can tell the man on the street. It doesn't matter. The first D is desire, having an intense, burning desire for a better life, whatever you define that to be. The second D is to be definite. Definite for me, perhaps 2 things. One, write it down. It doesn't matter how clear you get, but the clearer you get, the better. I had a friend of mine who became a client of mine, and one day he presented me with like a 5-page business plan that, and then years later, we had a coaching program that was set up and we went forward. And his plan was that he would be both a realtor and that he would be a barber. And I remember when he took a test and he didn't pass, and I said, well, he said he failed by 1. And I said, when's the next test? And he took that test and passed that test. And he got his barbershop too. I'm just saying, write it down. Write it down. So the second D, definite. And the other way of doing it is a vision board. Get some pictures that show you what it is that you want and look at it every day, many times a day. And for me, what I did was I stood before a mirror and I said over and over again, I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. I read all kinds of books, Power of Positive Thinking, written a long time ago by Norman Vincent Peale, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Powerful book for me. And you can find that text in the Bible. The more you understand how it works, the better it works for you. And then the third D is understand it's divinely intended. For me, it was divinely intended from before the foundation of the world for me, the life that I wanted. And then the fourth D is lived on the 4th dimensional level. That is, from the standpoint of the imagination, it is said that Einstein rode a light wave, a light ray, and then he invented the theory of relativity. And that he said that imagination is more powerful than really reality, what we consider to be touch, feel, and see reality. And so that's what I'm asking you to do. And if you're already at the top, then if you have children, or if you have friends, if you have anybody, there's somebody in society that you may know that's around you, or that you can find, and you can tell them these 4 Ds, just 4 Ds. And they can begin to change their life. I will end with this. There was a book that was written by a man named Dennis Waitley, I believe, a few years ago. It was called Seeds of Greatness. And Dennis Waitley tells inside his book that a story about walking along a beach is a metaphor. And he's walking along a beach. The beach is scattered with what I believe are starfish. And every now and then, like it's a story of a man walking along a beach, a seashore, an ocean shore, if you will. And there's starfish that are on land when they should be in the sea, in the ocean. And the wave has come and left them there. And as the man is walking, every now and then he bends down and throws one of them. There are thousands of them, if not millions of them. He bends down and picks up one and throws it back into the ocean. A man comes and he sees what he's doing, and he tells him, says, you know, it's useless. You can't help all of them. And the man that's walking takes another few steps, and the man tells him, says, it's useless. You're not making any difference whatsoever. And the man takes a few more steps. He picks up one and he throws it back into the ocean. And he looks at the man who's telling him basically to stop. He says, it made a difference for that one. That's what I'm seeking to do here, to make a difference for that one, for the next one. I've already made a difference for a number of ones. I'm seeking to make sure that this day I make a difference for the person who will follow through in whatever way, and their life will be changed forever. I said I would end. I had a friend, if he considers me my friend, considers himself my friend, but we went to Africa in 2007, and we spent a lot of money going to Africa, coming back and everything. We had already sent things to Africa. There was a young man that was there, and we wanted to actually bring him back to the U.S. But when we got back to the U.S., we had financial challenges. And no matter how hard we tried, we could not recover from those. And eventually had catastrophic financial challenges. And we were not able. We had promised that we would bring this young man back to the U.S. And I lost touch with him, and finally, when we finally made contact with him years later, he told us of the grief that he had gone through and how painful it was that we had not been able to bring him to the U.S. We had planted a dream in his heart and had not been able to fulfill it. He did not care about our grief. And I thought it amazing that he did not care about our grief. But what was even more amazing was that this young man had gone to college. He was now someone who had traveled throughout Africa. And he had a position now as a leader and a departmental leader of one of the churches, international churches, and was speaking in different countries in Africa as a youth leader. And sometimes I wonder if that dream was in his heart before we ever met him. There's a statement of the Bible that says all things, even one's disappointments, work together for good for those who love God and are called in accordance with God's purpose. I know my life has not turned out exactly how I have wanted it to, but I will tell you the truth. It's better, better, better than I really dreamed. The Bible says God does far more abundantly above what we ask or even think. And I'm here to tell you that what I say, I have lived already. Namaste. Blessings. Take care.